Salam, right? Salam alaikum, right? In Yemen, you use
Walaikum
greeting like that?
Yes, yes, it is
Okay.
okay. Okay.
Okay,
Walaikum
I'm
salam.
Rosmond Pandong. In short, Mary Rose. Yes, I'm a Ph.D. ALT student. Yeah, so I will welcome to the webinar on educational research via linguist and ELT from research title to research report. Today, in the afternoon session, it's opposite time now. May I invite Associate Professor Dr. Akrapon Niamaihom, the chair of PhD program in ELT and the Faculty Dean of Humanities and Social Sciences to deliver a welcoming speech to our guest speaker. Please welcome.
Sawadee krab. Very good afternoon to all participants from Thailand, China, and Myanmar. And very good morning to our guest speaker today. So how to say, Ajahn May, how to greet in
Yeah, salam
alaikum. Yeah, salam alaikum.
Salam.
Yeah, I think it's not clearly as the native speakers of this culture. Thank you very so much on behalf of Buriram Rajabhat University, Professor Morshed. I just informed my BRU president that we are very lucky to have the professor from Yemen come and deliver very interesting ELT topic. And she said that, oh, that's very good opportunity for PhD students. And she also asked me to send her thankful message to Professor Morshed for your invaluable time being with us at today. And I also coming to thank you on behalf of the Dean. I am the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences. And also I am the chair of PhD in ELT program. So today we are very lucky. It is very fortunate for all of us to have you with us, even if it is online. But we highly hope that in the near future, after the COVID-19 pandemic is getting better, we would like to invite you to give us a very insightful talk on site in person at Buriram Rajabhat University. And we also highly hope that one day, sooner or later, we will come to visit you at your university in Yemen. So I would like to ask my student, please collect your money for the air ticket and other things. We are coming to visit our professor from Yemen very soon. All right. Okay. And today I'm not in Buriram city. I'm away from Buriram. I think about 400 kilometers from my home city, but still talking to all of you because of Internet of Things, that is IoT. Thank you, technology era. And I think today our professor from Yemen, he is a good friend of mine. We met in Malaysia, in Thailand, somewhere long ago. Professor Morshed is a very good friend of mine. And thank you very so much for your academic assistance once again. He came to Buriram Rajabhat University, I think last 4 years to present his paper. All right, so today we are going to listen to you. The very interesting and trendy topic relevant to linguistics and ELT. And he talked to me yesterday. He also shared other things relevant to research and articles covering our ELT and linguistics. So Professor Morshed, I'm now driving to Nong Khai from Bangkok, all right? So I might not be in a session all the time, but I'll keep in touch. After this, I will rewatch the record webinar again. And I asked my colleagues to record this webinar, and then I will send to you later on, Professor Morshed, to recheck whether it is okay or not. If you say that okay, and then we'll distribute. We will distribute this web link to other our academic partners. So thank you very so much to my students from both batch 1 and batch 2. and also academic partners from different universities for attending this webinar. And at the end of my talk, I would like to invite everyone, please join me in giving a big round of applause to our guest speaker, Professor Morshed from Yemen. Thank you very so much. And let me announce this webinar officially open. Thank you so much. All the best. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Associate Professor Dr. Akharapun Yamaihon, our Dean or the Chair of Ph.D. ELT program. So before we begin the seminar or webinar, may I briefly introduce our special guest speaker today in the afternoon session. Assistant Professor Dr. Morshed Al-Jaro. Am I correct pronunciation?
Yes, it is
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
It's correct.
So Professor obtained his PhD in teaching English as a second language or TESOL from the Department of Language and Literacy Education, Faculty of Education, University Malaysia in 2019. He currently works as an assistant professor at the Department of English Language, College of Yemen, Seiyun University, Yemen, right? He also is the head of Department of English, College of Open Education, Seiyun University. Furthermore, he is the head of the Department of Quality Assurance and Academic Accreditation at the Academic Development and Quality Assurance Center. His research interests include TEFL, TESOL, teacher training, professional development, reflective practice, curriculum design, and teaching methods. So we could say that our guest speaker today has many research work. Right now, it's time to welcome our Assistant Professor Dr. Morshed Al-Jaro.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good afternoon and good morning, okay, in Yemen. Of course, okay, it is 9 a.m. okay in Yemen. At the beginning, I would like okay to thank my dear friend, okay, Prof. Akabon, okay, for his invitation to be a guest speaker today, to participate and share knowledge with the PhD students. Of course, I'm lucky okay, to visit Thailand okay, one day, and also Buriram University in 2019 okay, to participate in the conference. Today, okay, I'm here okay, to share knowledge with the PhD students, and we'll talk about what about research. Okay, so I'm going okay, to give a general background knowledge about what about research. And also at the same time, okay, we have some tasks. Okay, so is the screen?
You would like to share the screen, right?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So
it's
is
pop
it
up.
clear? Okay, for you now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so let me first, okay, give you some guidelines, okay, what we are going to talk about, okay, today. First, we are going to talk about the research. What is research? And also, why is research important? And then we'll talk about what about steps for conducting a research. What are the qualities for good research? And also, what are the qualities for a good researcher? Types of research, we'll talk about types of research. Okay, we'll talk about what about variables. What do you mean by a variable? Okay, different types of variables. Hypotheses, what are hypotheses? And also different types of hypotheses. We'll talk about what about population sampling. We'll talk about data collection instruments, okay, different data collection instruments for different types of research. We'll talk about selecting a research topic, which is one of the problematic issues, okay, that face students, PhD students or MA students. And also we'll talk about what about problems associated with the topic selection. How do you write the statement of the problem section? And we'll talk about how to review the literature. Okay, so let's start now. Is my voice clear? Hello?
Yes, Professor?
Is it clear? Is it
Yes.
clear, my voice?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So let's start, okay, with the research. Research, it is defined as a process of steps used to collect data and analyze information in order to increase our understanding of a topic or issue. So we have three main, steps, okay, for any research. We have okay, to collect data, and also after to collect data, we are going to analyze the data in order to increase our understanding about issue. So we have three steps. The first one, to pose a question. Usually, okay, we mean by the question, it is about the interest, okay? It is about the prediction that we have, okay, at the beginning of the study. Then, okay, we have to collect data. Collecting data, of course, okay, we have different instruments to collect data. That means, okay, as a researcher, I have to look for the suitable and appropriate instrument or tool to collect data, or the required data, okay. Of course, at the end, we are going to analyze the data to present an answer to the question which is posed at the beginning. Then, is research important, and why is research important? Of course, okay, when we search, okay, or when we conduct a study or a research, of course, we are going to add something to the knowledge. Okay, we are going to increase our understanding about something. Okay, so we are going to contribute to existing knowledge. Okay, and what specific contribution can research make to our base knowledge? Of course, we are going to address gaps in knowledge. Sometimes, okay, when we conduct a research, okay, because there is a gap in the literature. For example, we are going to carry out a study, but okay, this study or this topic has not been investigated before. Or maybe, okay, it is what it is studied before, but there is something, okay, that is still missing. Okay, so this is what we call the gap. So your study is going to address the gap, okay, in knowledge by investigating an area of research. Okay. Also, maybe sometimes we can replicate knowledge. I mean, okay, one study that is carried, for example, in Thailand, but I want to carry out this study again in a different context, for example, in Yemen. Okay, so we have this study that is carried out in Thailand, maybe in 2015. But now I want to carry out the same study. So this is what we call replicate knowledge. So I'm going to carry out the same study in a different context by testing old results with new participants or at new different site or research site. Okay. Then also we have another reason for carrying out research, which is to expand knowledge by extending research to new ideas or practices. Sometimes, okay, we have a research that is carried, okay, maybe in the past 10 or 20 years. But okay, as a researcher, I want to expand my knowledge, okay, or maybe to carry out a new study, but to tackle or discuss different issues, okay, not only the issues that were discussed or carried out in the first study. Also to inform practice by developing new ideas. of course, okay, one of the most important reasons for carrying the research is to inform practice. Okay, sometimes I want to implement a new study, and I want to find out the effects of that. Okay, how can I know that unless if I carry out a study? Then we have steps for conducting a research using scientific method. Of course, okay, when we talk about what about scientific method, that means we have some systematic method to be followed. Okay, so we'll start from the research. Okay, for example, title. Then we have to state the problem, questions, objectives, hypothesis if you have. Okay, then after that we can talk about the design. After the design we have the data collection instruments, and then we have the analysis, and finally we can write the report. So first you have to identify the problem that defines the goal of the research. So this is the first step. You have to identify the problem. And we mean by the problem here, okay, it is not only a practical problem. Sometimes we have a practical problem, for example, an educational issue, and I want to study that problem. This could be a problem, or sometimes it's what it is a research-based research problem. That means maybe there is a gap in knowledge, and I want to carry out study to fill in that gap, or maybe to increase our understanding about that. Then the second step is to make a prediction that if confirmed, this solves the problem. Okay, and this is what we talk about. What about the problem? Sometimes we have a prediction. Prediction is that for example, we have some intention regarding a certain topic, and I want to see if I can apply this or not. Okay, so we have a prediction at the beginning of my study, and we'll talk about this in detail when we talk about hypothesis. Sometimes your prediction comes true, or sometimes you have what we can say opposite or different results. So in this case you have also to accept the findings or the results, because we have to contribute to the knowledge. Also, after the prediction, we have to gather data relevant to this prediction, and this is very important. Okay, when we gather data, when we collect data, we have to look for appropriate data to help me later to answer my question, or to for example achieve the objectives of my study. And after the data collected, then we can analyze that data and interpret the data to see if it supports the prediction and resolves the question, and that indicated the research. So these are the four main steps for conducting any research. Starting with the problem, we have the problem. Then we can make a prediction. After that, we have to look for a suitable data collection instrument to gather data, and then we can analyze the data and come to the final step, which is interpretation of writing the findings. Again, I'm asking, is my voice clear? Is it okay with you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Then we move to steps for conducting a research. Steps, okay, so we have the process for any research consists of 6 steps. First, you have after you have identified the problem, then you need to review the literature. And one may ask here, why reviewing literature here is very important? Yes, okay, because reviewing literature will help you, okay, to identify what are the topics that have been investigated before. I mean, okay, if that problem that you are looking for has been investigated or studied by someone else, so there is no need, okay, for doing that research again. So we have what we have to review the literature, and we mean by literature here, you have what we have to go, okay, and read a relevant material, okay, for example, books, journals, okay, whatever, okay, about research. So you can identify is, for example, any other scholar studied this topic or not. So we have to review the literature. Then after that, we have to specify a purpose for the research. And we mean by the purpose, what's your aim, okay, of conducting that? So we have the aim or the objectives of the study, and also the questions, the hypothesis. They are all, we can say, similar, just only we are paraphrasing. So what's the main aim or the objectives of your study, okay, the questions and the hypothesis. So all they are the same, just we are just paraphrasing a case. We'll talk about this, okay, later. Then after specifying the purpose, then you can collect data. Collecting data through different instruments, and you have to look for the appropriate and suitable data collection instrument. Then analyze and interpret data, and finally we can come to the last step, which is reporting and evaluating the research. So the components here, we have the research problem, the research design, the data collected, and statistical tools. These are the components of any research. We have research problem, we have research design, we have data collection, and we have statistical tools. And there is a relationship between these components or entities. For example, when you talk about the research problem, after you have identified the research problem, then okay, you can easily choose the research design. Okay, if you tell me what's your problem or what's the research problem, so I can easily understand that the design of this study should be this. Because it is clear from the research problem. It is not a matter of selection. As a scholar or a researcher, you can select whatever design you want. No, okay, it is related to the research problem. So first, okay, we can identify the problem. What I want to do as a researcher, I'm interested to do something. Okay, so this is your prediction, or this is your interest, this is your purpose. Then we have to choose the appropriate research design. And then after you have selected the research design, okay, you can easily understand what is the type of data required. So the kind of the research design chosen will dictate the kind of data required. Okay. And after that, we have the type of data collected dictate the kind of statistical to use it. Yes, okay, we have different types of data, for example, quantitative, qualitative data. The type of data collected, okay, will also dictate the statistical tools. Okay, so we can talk later about the statistics, okay. For example, we have qualitative statistic, quantitative statistic. It depends on the type of the data collected. Then we talk about research qualities. What are the research qualities? There are two essential concepts have to be considered in conducting good and acceptable research: reliability and validity. What do you mean by reliability, and what do you mean by validity? First, reliability. It refers to whether the research can produce the same or very similar results if it is conducted again under the same or very similar condition. That means, okay, I have carried this research here, okay, and the same research, if it is carried by someone else in Thailand, if I and my friend in Thailand reach to the same or similar results, so we can say that this research is what is reliable. Okay, so but we have to look for the same, okay, and also similar condition. Maybe, okay, sometimes we reach to different results because the context is different, okay, the background of the, for example, the participants are different. No, we are talking about similar or same conditions, and we have to reach to the same results. So here we can say about reliability. And there are two types of reliability, internal and external. And what do you mean by internal? Internal reliability refers to the consistency of data collection, analysis, results, interpretation. That means, okay, there must be a connection or consistency between the data collection and data analysis and also the interpretation. There is a connection between these components of the research. And also we have external reliability. This one refers to whether replicating a research by other researchers produce similar results to these obtained in the original one. Okay, so external, that means, okay, if the study is carried out by another one, and if they reach to the same results or similar results, so we can say this one is or these two researches are reliable. And exactly we are talking about the external reliability. For validity, what do you mean by validity? Validity refers to whether the research investigates the problem that is supposed to be investigated. For example, I'm looking for the effect of, for example, group work on speaking fluency. Okay, so this is my intention. So I have to look, okay, for a design, okay, I have to look for data that will help me answer my question, okay, and also to make my prediction, for example, true. This is what you mean by validity. So it is it refers to maybe, okay, the research design, that is the data collection instrument. All these, okay, should help me, okay, to achieve the objective of my study. So it refers to whether the research engages the problem that is supposed to investigate. And also, again, here we have two types of validity: internal and external validity. For internal validity has to do with factors that may directly affect the outcomes. Yes. Here we can talk about for example, about experimental designs. Okay, we'll talk about this later. We have to make control for other variables that I'm not interested, okay, to study, because those factors sometimes, okay, affects the results of the study. I will give you one example. For example, I'm going to carry out a study to see, for example, the effect of group work on the students' speaking fluency. I have to control the level of the students first. That means, okay, all the students should be of the same level, and also their background knowledge, okay, of the language or in the language should be the same. But if there is one student or more than one student in that group who have good background knowledge about English, about the language, that means, for example, they have studied, okay, for example, abroad, and their English, okay, is pretty good. So of course, if I don't control that variable or that factor, okay, it will affect the results. So in this case, I have maybe to exclude those students, okay, from my study. So I can say this study is internally valid. Another one is the external validity. External validity, it is concerned with generalizability. That means, okay, can I generalize the results of my study to other contexts or not? This depends on, for example, the way we select the sample, okay? How do we select the sample? If we select, okay, the sample, for example, randomly, and the sample is representative, okay, from the whole population. So later we can say that the results of this study could be generalized, okay, into other similar contexts. Okay, if not, I mean, if the sample is not representative, or maybe the researcher couldn't select the sample randomly, so at the end of the study, he cannot generalize the results. Okay. Also, there is another type of validity, which is called ethical validity or bias. It refers to the extent to which the researcher keeps his personal impression away from the research. Yes, sometimes, okay, some scholars, they maybe sometimes, okay, interfere, okay, they add, for example, their own personal, okay, impression about something, okay, maybe, okay, they do something, okay, in order to achieve, okay, or fulfill, okay, the objective of the study. And this is what we call ethical validity, because the researcher here, okay, interferes, okay, he adds his own impression about the study. He should be objective. He should keep his personal impression away of the study. Okay, now we'll talk about the researcher qualities. Okay, a good researcher, okay, should have some good, okay, qualities. For example, he should be curious, and we mean by curious here, the researcher should what we can say, okay, has the desire, okay, to understand everything about research. So it motivates the researcher to conduct his work for the sake of satisfying his personal interest. As a researcher, you need, okay, to know everything about that topic. Okay, for example, you need, okay, to review the literature. You need, okay, to read the most recent studies, okay, about that area of interest. Okay, so you can understand everything. Okay, and this will help you, okay, later, okay, for example, to write a literature review, and also at the same time, okay, you can for example, by the end of the research, you can add some suggestion, because you know something about okay, the missing, okay, points that were not investigated before. And also, the researcher should be patient. This quality keeps the researcher going on his work regardless of any difficulty or problem they or he or she may face when conducting his or her research. I mean, okay, that the researcher should be patient. That means, okay, you can't reach, okay, to the results, okay, from the for in a short period of time. You need, okay, some time, okay, to read. And maybe, okay, for PhD students, you need, okay, to review the literature. You need, okay, to read at least, okay, some advisors and supervisors, okay, they say you need, okay, to read at least, okay, 100, okay, article before you start, okay, your writing your problem. That means, okay, you need, okay, to review 100, at least 100 study, okay, related to your study. So that means, okay, you need, okay, to be patient. You need, okay, to read. You need, okay, to review the literature. It takes time. And also, you should have good memory. That means, as a researcher, usually you deal with different types of data, which requires a good memory to remember and classify such data correctly. For example, while, okay, reviewing the literature, or while, okay, reading, okay, or while collecting data, or while, for example, interviewing a participant, you may, okay, deal, okay, with some type of data. You need, okay, to have a good memory, or maybe, okay, you have to take notes. Okay, so this will help you later, okay, to write this in your report. And also, a researcher should be organized. That means he has the organizational ability. to allow you as a researcher to plan and organize your work when collecting data and to arrange the obtained data and information in a way that allows you to refer to easily and report systematically at any time. Of course, okay, as a PhD student, maybe you need, okay, from 3 to 5 years to finish your study. That means, okay, you are going, okay, to read, you are going, okay, to collect data, you are going to analyze data, you are going to write, okay, or interpret, okay, the results. So all these things, okay, needs you to be organized. You have to create maybe a file using your PC or even, okay, your notes. But, okay, you have to keep them maybe, okay, in folders. Okay, maybe you can organize them by time. Okay, so to easily, okay, retrieve them, refer to them. But when you, okay, for example, lack this quality, so it will be difficult for you, okay, to finish on time, graduate on time. Maybe, okay, you will lose very important, okay, notes that you have collected one day. Okay, so this is very important, or these are very important qualities for researchers. And also we have objectivity. We'll talk about bias before. Okay, objectivity, that means it refers to the ability of the researcher to be fair and to base any step he makes and any conclusion he reaches on scientific objective criteria rather than on personal perspectives. That means, okay, as a researcher, you have to keep your personal interest, okay, personal impression, okay, about the results, and don't, okay, interfere. Huh? You have to be objective, presented objectively. And also, one important quality is the language. A researcher should have, okay, good English language proficiency level. In order, okay, for example, to read, in order, okay, for example, to express your ideas, okay? So the researcher should be able to express his idea in clear and scientific language. Ambition is another quality. It is the desire for success. Researchers who have ambition to gain something for their research are connecting their work to an additional aim. That means, okay, as a researcher, why do you join, for example, the PhD program? You have the desire, you have the ambition, okay, to be, for example, something, okay, in future. You want, okay, to be, for example, assistant professor, you want to be associate professor, you want to be professor, okay, in future. So this is your ambition, okay, in life. Your desire, okay, to success. So if you have this desire, okay, you have to work hard in order to fulfill, in order to achieve. And also training and resistance. Many phenomena are changing from time to time and from place to place. This requires a change in the methods that are used for investigating them. The researcher has to update his information as well as his technique through training and continuous association to research work. Yes, of course, okay, when we talk about technology, okay, for example, there are some, for example, apps or programs that are used nowadays, okay, in analysis, for example. For example, in qualitative or quantitative analysis. So as a researcher, I need, okay, to update, okay, my knowledge. Okay, I have to take some, for example, training courses to understand how can I use these. How can I use this? Will help me, okay, to make it, okay, for example, the analysis, okay, as quick as I can, and also it will, for example, maybe, okay, okay, we can say that these could be carried out, okay, without errors. That means, okay, if you analyze it, okay, manually, that means, okay, errors occur. But for example, if you use some application, you can do that quickly, easily, and also correctly. So you have what you have to, from time to time, you have to update your knowledge. You have to attend some training courses in order to understand what's new, in the field. And also the talent. Talent, we can say it refers to the specific abilities, skills, and qualification required for conducting any research. As a matter of fact, it is the quality that may include most of the previous qualities, whether these qualities are innate or acquired. That means, the researcher should have, all these abilities that we have mentioned, or qualities that we have mentioned before, and this, will help, the researcher, to carry out the research, in a good way, Now we move to types of research. Of course, there are different classification of research. And for every classification, we have something to look for. For example, we have one classification for research, field research, and also library research. And what do I mean by field research? Field research, it is a type of research that requires the researcher to be in the field, collecting data from certain sources, analyzing such data, and presenting the results of the data analysis in a way that solves the research problem. That means, from the term field, the researcher should go to the field, and collect data. Maybe he can meet some participants, interview them, distribute a questionnaire, and collect data. Then he can do some analysis for the collected data. The second type is called library research. Library research, or it is called the secondary research. That means, it involves heavy reading of documents and analyzing such documents without a need for going to the field. It is called library research because it is mostly done in libraries where documented material are found. So some research just only you can go to the library, and look for some documents and try to analyze them. Maybe sometimes when you talk about reviewing, for example, reviewing papers, there is no need to go to the field. Just you can Google, using Google or some of the database, and try to collect the papers, and then make analysis for these papers, and you can reach to the conclusion without a need to go to the field and meet the participants. Okay, another classification is quantitative and qualitative. And here it is mainly related to the type of data required. For the first one, field and library, it's about going to the field, or maybe you can sit in the library and collect data from documented material. But here for quantitative and qualitative, here we are talking about we are talking about the type of data required. What is the type of data required? Quantitative, it aims at finding objectively abstract facts about certain phenomena through numbers. And usually researchers collect the facts and study the relationship of one set of facts to another. They measure using scientific techniques that are likely to produce quantified and, if possible, generalizable conclusion. This is what we call the quantitative. So we have different types of these. We'll talk about it later. But in general, this one aims to find out objective, abstract facts. And using numbers. The second one is qualitative. Here, it aims at investigating the quality of the phenomenon under investigation to describe and explain different variables that compose it. So in the first one, we have numerical data, but in the second one, we have nominal data. So we don't have numbers, but we have, for example, to describe in depth, for example, a certain case. And to explain different variables that compose it. The main interest for qualitative research is to interpret the phenomena under investigation on the basis of understanding individual perceptions of the world. And of course, those researchers seek to insight rather than statistical analysis. So in the first one, okay, in quantitative, we have statistical analysis, okay, and the second one, we have qualitative analysis. Okay, we'll talk about this later. Then we can talk about types of field research. What are the types of field research? Field research can be classified into 4 main categories according to the method of collecting data and the type of data involved. Under each category, there are subcategories that may share many things but differ in some aspects. So let's have a look again to the types of field research. Excuse me, is my voice clear?
Okay, yes, clear.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So here in this case slide, you can have a look to the different types of field research. Okay, so you can start from observational research to the left, and we have 3 different types of this type: non-participant, participant, and ethnography. I'll talk about each one. We'll talk about each one. For the second one, we have the descriptive, okay, and also we have 3 types of this type. We have survey, we have developmental, and follow-up. Number 3 is called correlational research, and the last one is called experimental research. And we have 3 types: pre-experimental research, quasi-experimental research, and true experimental research. Now, let's start with the first one, observational research. Okay, what do we mean by observational research? Observational research means, okay, observing certain phenomena as it occur in natural or artificial setting. That means, as a researcher, you have to go to the field and observe, okay, a certain phenomena, as it is, okay. Or maybe, okay, sometimes they call it simulated, okay, for example, situation, that means, or setting. That means, okay, they have to create, okay, a situation similar, okay, to the original one. There are 3 types of observational research that could be listed in relation to linguistics. For example, the first one, non-participant. Non-participant, the researcher observes the phenomena as they occur, but without being part of the experience or being among the people affected by these phenomena. And here we can talk about 3 techniques. For example, observation of natural occurrence without any interference, or observation with simulation, creating real-like or artificial situation. The third one is called case study, observing in depth an individual or group to describe phenomena comprehensively. So this is the first one, non-participant research. As a researcher, you are not a part of that research. Okay, you will not be part of that phenomenon observed or investigated. Participant research, the researcher becomes part of the situation being observed. That means, okay, the researcher is part of the situation observed. Ethnography, it involves living an experience over an extended period of time to collect data intensively about many variables in natural setting to explain and interpret certain phenomena comprehensively. Here in ethnography, that means, okay, you need to live maybe, for example, in a certain context in order to observe maybe, okay, the behavior of the people. But this one, okay, requires long period of time. Okay, so you need, okay, to observe or investigate different variables, and at the end of the study, you are going to write the report. This is what we call the ethnography. Number 2 is descriptive. Descriptive, it aims at collecting data objectively through questionnaires, interviews, and observation, coding data collected numerically to describe the relationship that is discoverable in the phenomena themselves. Here, again, we have another type, which is called descriptive, or sometimes it's called exploratory. That means, okay, the researcher, okay, should collect data objectively through, for example, some data collection instruments, like for example, questionnaires or interviews, okay, or maybe, okay, observations, okay. There are some methods, okay, for that. For example, survey research. This one attempts to collect data from members of population in order to determine the current states of that population with respect to one or more variable. Okay, maybe, okay, what we can use, for example, here questionnaire to collect data from a group of people regarding one or two variables. Developmental, it aims at tracing the development of certain phenomena for certain time. It may involve collecting data from different people at different levels. And here we can talk about cross-sectional study, or from the same level, but for a period of time thought to be enough to show the real picture of people's development longitudinal. For example, here we'll talk about the cross-sectional study and longitudinal study. If you want to, for example, to trace the development of language acquisition for children. If you want to, for example, just only study one child, okay, so you need long time, okay, to trace the development of language acquisition. And this is what we call longitudinal. So you are going, okay, to observe the same individual for a long time. But also there is another way, okay, to do the same study, but as cross-sectional. Instead of observing one individual, you can select some, for example, children, some individuals. Okay, I'll start, okay, from, for example, with the one child who is, for example, of 5 months. Okay, another one who is, for example, of 10 months. Okay, a third of, for example, 15 months. Okay, a fourth for example, 20 months, and so on. It depends, okay, on the sample of the study. So instead of observing, okay, one individual, you can observe different individuals, individuals, and then you can come up with different, different, okay, results, but you can gather them as one result, because, okay, you are tracing the development of language acquisition for children. Okay, so this is what we mean by cross-sectional. Okay, cross-sectional and longitudinal. Longitudinal means, okay, you have to trace the development, okay, of a certain phenomena, but for a long time. That means maybe, okay, you need, okay, 1 or 2 years. Okay, it depends. Okay, it depends on the purpose of the study. But cross-sectional, I can use more than one individual. Okay, more than one individual, and then we can gather, okay, the data of the data collected from different individuals to reach to the final, okay, results. And also we have a third type, which is called follow-up research. Follow-up research, it involves collecting data about one particular group to determine its states after certain time or certain program. Follow-up usually, okay, maybe if you have study, okay, and you want, okay, to carry out, okay, a follow-up study in order to maybe, okay, to evaluate, for example, that program, okay, or maybe, okay, to see the effect of that, maybe, okay, after some time. So this is what we call follow-up research. The third type of field research is called correlational research. And it involves collecting data in order to determine whether and to what degree a relationship exists between two or more quantifiable variables. And this one is suitable for studying the relationship between language performance and personal and general variables. It's also suitable for investigating the relationship between L1 and L2 performance and predicting the scores of
Excuse me,
language.
Professor.
Yes?
Okay. It's okay. I see your screen, but it disappeared a moment ago.
So is it okay now?
Okay, it's okay now, sir. Okay, please continue.
Okay. So now we are talking about what about correlational research, and we said it involves collecting data in order to determine whether and to what degree a relationship exists between two or more quantifiable variables. So this one is suitable for studying a relationship between language performance and personal and general variables. And also it is suitable for investigating the relationship between L1 and L2 performance. For example, if, for example, a good reader in the first language will be a good reader in second language. If, for example, a good writer in Thai, for example, will be a good writer in English. So here, a good and a suitable design for this research is what is called correlation research. So you are going to find out or to look for the relationship between variables. For example, in Thai, the scores of the students, for example, in a certain course, maybe writing or maybe speaking or whatever, or reading, and also in English. So we can make the correlation study. Also, we have experimental research. This is the fourth type of field research, experimental research. This one involves collecting data numerically about measurable phenomena to measure the effect of one or more manipulated variables. For example, we have independent variable or experimental variable or cause or treatment variable. All these are names for the independent variable. So we call it independent variable, experimental variable, cause variable, or treatment variable. That means the variable that you want to find out the effect of it on other variables. On other fixed variables, which is the dependent variable using inferential statistics. So in experimental design, usually we use inferential statistics. But in descriptive research, we use descriptive statistics. Experimental designs differ according to the number of the sample involved and the variables under investigation. There are three main types of experimental design can be identified. One is called pre-experimental design. This one, it involves collecting data from one or two groups selected non-randomly. That means that the researcher couldn't select the sample randomly. For the purpose of the effect of usually on variable independent on another variable dependent. So here, when we talk about pre-experimental, that means the researcher can collect data, but the way he selected the sample was non-randomly. And it's about only to collect data on one or two groups. Quasi-experimental design, we have two or more groups selected randomly, but assigned non-randomly. That means we'll talk about variables. In this type quasi, the researcher selected the groups randomly, but when he assigned the group, he assigned them non-randomly to control and experimental groups. And the last one, which is through experimental design, we have 2 or more homogeneous groups selected randomly and assigned randomly to control an experimental group. That means, okay, the researcher has the chance, okay, to select the population or the sample, okay, randomly. And what do you mean by randomly here? Everyone, okay, in the sample has the same chance to be what in the population. Sorry, everyone in the population has the same chance to be selected in what in the sample. Okay, so we have a random selection of the sample. So these are the 4 types of field research. We talk about observational research. We talk about descriptive research. We talk about correlational research and also experimental research. Now we move to variables. Variables. What do you mean by a variable? Okay, because okay, we talk about okay variable in field research. Okay, we talk about dependent and independent variables. So here we have it is time, okay, to understand variable and different types of variables. Variables are human characteristics or abilities that differ over time or among individuals. So are human characteristics or abilities that differ over time or among individuals. Most variables that differ over time also vary among individuals, but the reverse is not necessarily true. For example, variables that differ both over time and among individuals. For example, we talk about what about language proficiency. We talk about what about motivation. We talk about self-esteem, and we talk about what about health. So these variables differ over time and also among individuals. So we can talk about language proficiency of a student in the first level, okay, is different from his, for example, level of language proficiency in the 4th level. So the variable, this variable now is what is different because of what of time. And also when we talk about what about individuals, okay, we have around, for example, 30 students in the class, and their level in language proficiency is not the same. So this variable is also different, okay, among individuals. But also at the same time, we have variables that are typically vary only among individuals. For example, we have gender or sex. Okay, this one is the same. Okay, all over, okay, the life of the participants. If, for example, he is a male or female. Okay, and also we'll talk about what about nationality, first language background, intelligence. Okay, so these are vary only among individuals. So cannot, for example, be different among over time. Now we have variable and construct. What's the difference between a variable and a construct? And this is very important, okay? We need to understand what do you mean by a variable and what do you mean by a construct. Okay, when we talk about variable and constructs, both of them vary over time or among individual. Okay, so it is a human characteristic or ability, okay, that vary over time or among individuals. So both of them, okay, vary over time or among individuals. For a variable, it is essentially what we can observe or quantify of the human characteristic or abilities involved. So in the variable, we can observe, we can measure, we can quantify. But for the construct, it is the actual characteristic or ability that it represents in the human being. For example, in construct, we have a language proficiency. Can we observe? Can we measure proficiency in English, language proficiency? We cannot, okay, we cannot measure, we cannot observe, because this is the actual ability of the student. But how can we quantify, how can we measure, how can we assess, for example, the level of the students in English proficiency? We need, okay, for example, maybe to give the students English proficiency test. And the scores could be what could be a representation for what for their English proficiency. So by this we can make it a variable. Again, in a construct, it is what it is actual ability that we cannot, for example, measure. We cannot measure. But in research, we need to make that construct as a variable in order to measure, in order to assess the students, and later in order to interpret the results. I need maybe a K2, for example, to give the students a test, and the scores of the students in that English proficiency test could be a variable. So it is important to remember that scores are not the ability, but a reflection of that ability. Again, now we are differentiating between a construct and a variable. Okay, all or both of them are human characteristic or ability that differ over time and also among individuals. But the difference is that the constructs cannot be measured. Okay, cannot be measured easily. The variable we can quantify, we can observe, we can measure. Sometimes, okay, we have a construct, and then I need a K to measure this. So I have to maybe operationally define it, or maybe I can for example, give a test or score, okay, for the students, and the results would be like a representation, okay, for that construct, which we call a K variable. Hope it is clear. Now we come to operationalization. Operationalization, how each variable is being defined. The operationalization of variables is the researcher's chance to explain how each variable is being defined with respect to the construct in question. Okay, so usually at the end of chapter 1, we have definition or definitions of key terms, the major terms, okay, not in your study. Some of these terms are constructs. You cannot observe, you cannot measure easily, but you need a K to define them. Define them, okay, in this section, you need a K to define them operationally. Okay, to suit maybe okay, the purpose of the study, the level of the study, and also to be easier for you later, okay, to evaluate, okay, the performance of the student. So operationalization is your chance, okay, to define that construct to be a variable. Okay, if you have a construct, so you can operationally define it in that section, definitions of key terms at the end of chapter 1. So you can cite from different sources how do they define, for example, that term or that construct, and at the end you can conclude by giving your own operational definition. Okay, for example, for the purpose of this study, this term is, and then you can define it. You can define it. For example, if we talk about for example, pronunciation or speaking skills, maybe okay in schools, okay, is different from high schools and also from okay tertiary or college level. We talk about pronunciation. Okay, so I have to define okay that construct, okay, based on on the level of the students. What do you mean by speaking skill in this level? Because okay, speaking skill is different based on on the level of the students. Later, when you assess the students, the performance of the students, okay, later okay in the analysis, you can refer to the definition. How do you define this? How do you define that term? Okay, so I can refer it. And this is what we call the limitation of your study. You limit okay, this term or this okay, concept or this construct okay, to this level only. So you are going okay, to exclude okay, other for example, levels. Basically, the definition must be based on observable, testable, or quantifiable characteristic. Of course, you are not going okay, to define it okay, by your own, but you need a K to refer to some definitions, okay, to some scholars. How do they define okay that term, and then you can add your own okay based on what you have referred to or cited. An operational definition must be unique or exclusive. The definition must not also fit other possible constructs. Yes, okay, you need to make it unique, okay, exclusive, and also it should not be, okay, for example, overlapping, okay, between the constructs. Okay, maybe, okay, this, okay, could be what could be covered in another construct. No, you need, okay, to define, okay, each one, okay, you need to define each one. Sorry. Okay, so this is about what about operationalization. So it is what it is that the researcher chance, okay, to explain how each variable is being defined, okay, with respect to the construct in question. Now we come to types of variables. Types of variables. There are four or five different classification. Of course, there are four, okay, and then we add one. There are 5 different classification of variables within statistical language studies. They are distinguished primarily by the relationship that the researcher hypothesized to exist among them. Hence, a variable that functions as a dependent variable in one study may be an independent variable in another study. So when we talk about what about variable, we said, okay, it is what it is, a human characteristic or abilities. So now we are talking about what about different variables, okay, different variables. And here, the type of variable here depends on the relationship between okay, this variable and the other variable. Maybe, okay, this variable in this study is independent, could be a dependent variable in another study. So it depends, okay, on the researcher. How do we, okay, for example, use this variable in this this study or that study, okay, and the function of that variable in the study. We have 5 variables here. The first one is called dependent variable. The second one, independent variable. The third one, moderator variable. Number 4, control variable. And the last one, intervening variable. What do you mean by each one? What do you mean by each one? Dependent variable and independent variable. Dependent variable, it is observed to determine the effect, if any, the other types of variables may have on it. In other words, it is the variable of X or the central variable on which other variables will act if there is any relationship. Thus, a dependent variable cannot be identified in isolation. It makes sense only in the context of other variables in the study. Okay, so in short, we mean by dependent variable is the variable that we want to find out the effect of other variables on it. Okay, so this is the central, this is the focus, okay, of your study, the central variable in your study. And I want just, okay, to see if there is, for example, an influence, okay, or impact of other variables on that variable. The independent variables are variables selected by the researcher to determine their effect on or relationship with the dependent variable. So this is the independent variable, the variable that you want to find out its effect on the dependent variable. This is called the independent variable. An independent variable is one that is selected and systematically manipulated by the researcher to determine whether or the degree to which it has effect on the dependent variable. It is called, okay, the treatment, it is called the cause, okay, and also independent variable. So the variable that you want to find out its effect on other variables. Then we have the moderator variable. It is a special type of independent variable that the investigator has chosen to determine how, if at all, the relationship between the independent and dependent variable is affected or modified by the moderator variable. So here we have the relationship between the dependent and independent variable. Okay, the moderator variable maybe sometimes has an influence, okay, or a relationship between what? Between or influence or effects on that relationship. For example, I want to find out the effect of group work activities, okay, on what? On for example, speaking fluency. Speaking fluency. So we have what is the dependent variable and what is the independent variable. We have what? We have group work is the independent variable, and speaking skill or speaking fluency is the dependent variable. Again, okay, we have what? We have group work. Group work is the independent variable because this is the variable that I want to find out its effect on what? On speaking fluency. But here, when we talk about what about a moderator variable, it is type of independent variable that the researcher has chosen to determine how the relationship between the independent and dependent variable is affected. Maybe, okay, we talk about what about gender, okay, or sex. Okay, for example, boys and girls, males and females. Is there any, for example, effect on that relation between what? Between the dependent and independent variable? So I can choose gender as what? As a moderator variable, just only okay to find out, okay, is there any effects of that variable, which is gender, on what? On the relationship between what? Between the dependent and independent variable. Here we have what? We have independent variable versus moderator variable. The essential difference between independent and moderator variable lies in how the researcher views each in the study. For independent variable, the concern is with the direct relationship to the dependent variable, whereas the moderator variable, the concern is with their effect on the relation. Yes, okay, this is what I have said before. It is what when we have the dependent and independent variable, so we'll look okay to the relationship between the dependent and independent variable. Okay, but for the moderator, here we can look for any effects of that variable on the relationship between the dependent and independent variable. For example, we have group work activity and speaking fluency. Group work activities and speaking fluency. So I can see, is there any effects, okay, for what? For gender? I mean, okay, could girls behave better, okay, than boys, or boys, okay, behave better than what? Than girls? So just only in what? On the relationship between what? Between the dependent and independent variable. Then we have what? We have the control variables. Control variables. Control variables, it is virtually impossible to include all the potential variables in each study. As a result, the researcher must attempt to control or neutralize all other extraneous variables that are likely to have an effect on the relationship between independent and dependent and also moderator variables. Okay, when we talk about control variable, for example, again, okay, we have the same example, group work activities, okay, and also speaking fluency, speaking fluency. So this is group work activity is the independent variable and speaking fluency is the dependent variable. Then there are some other factors that might affect the result of this study. So I have what? I have to, if I'm not interested, okay, to study them, I have what? I have to control them. I have to control them or make them, for example, neutralized. That means, okay, they have no effects on what? On the results of the study. For example, we have what? We have the instructor or the teacher. The teacher, okay, should be what? Should be the same, for example. Should be the same. The teacher who teach, for example, the experimental group and control group, okay, should be what? Should be the same. Otherwise, if I give, for example, a good teacher for one group, we may have, for example, an effect for that variable on what? On that group. For example, their background knowledge. Okay, also the level of the students should be the same. So I have what? I have to control all factors that might affect the results of what? Of the study. Make them control. Make them control. So by this, by the end, if all those factors are controlled, so I can what? I can say confidently that group work, okay, can influence the speaking fluency positively or negatively, depends on what? On the results of your study. Control variables are those that the investigator has chosen to keep constant, neutralize, or otherwise eliminate, so that they will not have any effect on the study. Sometimes it is difficult to control. One example is that, for example, one of the students in the group has a good background knowledge of English. Okay, so in this case, I have to exclude that student from the treatment, because that student would affect the results of my study. So to control that variable, which is the background of the students, the background of the students should be the same. If you have one student who has a good background knowledge at the beginning of your treatment or experiment, you need to exclude from the treatment. It is not to exclude for example, from the class. No, I mean later when you analyze the results, you can exclude the result of that student. Typically, control variables are personal, demographic attributes or characteristics such as gender, intelligence, race, etc. So these are just some examples for control variables. And we mean by control variables all other variables that could affect the results should be controlled. If you are not interested to measure or to study, you need to make them neutral, or you can eliminate them, or you can control them by any way. Also, we have another one, which is called another variable, which is called intervening variable. This is an attribute or characteristic that stands between the independent and dependent variables and exercise an influence on the dependent variable apart from the independent variable. So we talk about what about moderator variable. Moderator variable usually to find out its effect on the relationship between the dependent and independent variable. But here, we are talking about what about the intervening variable. That one, is what stands between the independent and dependent variable and exercise an influence on the dependent variable. For example, group work, apart from the independent variable. So this is what we call the interfering variable or mediating variable. Interfering variable transmits or mediate the effects of the independent variable on the dependent variable. Thus, they are called mediating variable. In some qualitative studies, interfering variables are controlled using statistical procedures. So these are the 5 variables, types of variables. We talk about dependent variable, which is the variable that want to find the effect of other variables on it. And then we have the independent variable, the variable that we want to find its effect on the dependent variable. And then we have the moderator variable, and this variable just only to find its influence on the relationship between the variable, the dependent and independent variable. Control variables, factors that might affect the results should be controlled. Maybe you can neutralize, or you can eliminate these variables from your study, or you can control them by making them the same, for example, in both groups. And also at the end we have the intervening variable, and that variable just only stands between the independent and dependent variable, and has an influence on the dependent variable apart from the independent variable. Now we move to hypothesis. Hypothesis. What do you mean by hypothesis? We talk about variables. Of course, we have the hypothesis, because they are connected or related. A hypothesis is a formal statement of an expected relationship between 2 or more variables. So we have formal statement of an expected relationship between 2 or more variables. Usually, when we talk about the relationship between variables, it is just only expected, or what we call the predicted at the beginning of your study. I expect that there is a relationship, or there is no relationship between these variables in my study. So hypothesis narrow the purpose statement and advance a prediction about what the researcher expects to find. For example, we have the same example: group work activities and speaking fluency. Okay, as my prediction at the beginning of my study, so I can predict there is a relationship. So I can say there is a relationship between group work activities and speaking fluency. So this is a hypothesis. So expected relationship. A prediction between variables or hypotheses are not used to describe a single variable as in research questions. Okay, usually we have, for example, in empirical or in experimental studies, since we have more than one variable, for example, dependent and independent variable, moderator variable, we have hypotheses. But in other for example, research like descriptive, since we have, for example, sometimes only one variable or more than one variable, but there is no connection, so or relationship between variables, or there is no prediction. So usually we use only questions. Researchers narrow the focus of the study to one or more hypotheses that provide a prediction about the outcomes of the study. We'll talk also about guidelines for writing hypothesis. How can you write the hypothesis? Okay, state variables in order. First, independent variable, first position, then dependent variable, second position, and control variable, third position if you have control variable. Okay, if you compare groups in your hypothesis, explicitly state that the groups, if variables are related, specify the relationship between variables, and also make a prediction about changes you expect in your groups, such as less or more favorable, or no changes or no differences. You will then test this prediction using statistical procedures. You may state information about the prediction and the site of the study, but this information might not be necessary if it repeats information stated in your purpose statements. Okay, so this is just only how to write the hypothesis. For example, we have group work activities and speaking fluency. I need to write a hypothesis. Of course, we'll talk about types of hypothesis. For example, there is or there is no. It depends, okay, on the type of hypothesis. There is, for example, a relationship between, okay, group work activities and speaking fluency. There is a relationship, or there is a positive relationship, or there is a negative relationship, or there is no relationship between group work activities and speaking fluency. So first I start with the independent variable, first position, and in the second we state the dependent variable. And also we use we make the prediction, for example, positive or negative, or no difference or no change. Okay, so this is also we can use in stating the hypothesis. Sometimes, okay, we can state the site, but sometimes it is not necessary to do that in hypothesis, because it is already clear maybe, or in your limitation. Okay, types of hypothesis. Of course, we have two main types.
Excuse me, Professor.
Yes.
So before we move to the types of hypothesis, so maybe shall we have a break, a coffee break for 15 minutes, sir?
Okay,
or
can.
Yeah.
For 10 minutes?
15 minutes, sir.
15 minutes, okay.
Yes.
Okay, can. Okay.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will get back after 15 minutes break. Okay, so we will continue to our assistant professor, Dr. Morshed again. So
yes,
please join your refreshment. So we will be back. Thank you. Thank you, Professor, as well.
Okay, most welcome.
Shukran, right? Shukran.
Yes, yes, عفوا. So you can speak Arabic, huh?
Okay. So welcome back to the second part of the afternoon session. So if you can see the schedule, we also have a discussion in the second part of presentation. And after that, we will have time to ask the question. The speaker will let you ask. So please feel free to ask if you have any questions or
yes.
information
Okay,
to share.
Yes. I prefer to be at the end of the second part of our session. Also, I have some tasks for the students. Okay, so after each part, I have one task. Okay, so I'll give the students some time to work on. Okay, and then they can present their answers. Okay.
Okay, now
Okay.
I hope that everybody's come here. So please continue to our guest speaker. Please welcome. Yes, Professor, you can continue your presentation.
Okay. Okay, so is the slides clear with you?
We didn't see yet, sir.
Okay,
Maybe
so
it's
shall I
coming? Share.
Okay, so I will share again.
Yes.
Okay, clear now?
Yes, it's coming.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we are talking about hypothesis. We talk about types of hypothesis. Okay. We have two main types of hypothesis. The first one is called null hypothesis, and the second is called the alternative to the null. Okay, so what do you mean by null hypothesis? Okay, we mean by null hypothesis is to make a prediction that there is no relationship between the independent and dependent variables. So that means, okay, you negate, okay, or state that there is no relationship between the independent and dependent variable. Of course, this is just only a K prediction at the beginning of your study, and later you can accept, okay, or reject that hypothesis. Usually in empirical or experimental studies, we use null hypothesis because we want to state that there is a systematic relationship between the dependent and independent hypothesis. So usually we use the null hypothesis to state that the relationship between the dependent and independent variable doesn't come by chance, but there is a systematic relationship. The second type is the alternative to the null. That means, okay, when you say a state, okay, in the null hypothesis, there is no relationship. Here you state that there is a relationship. So it is used if you think that there is or there will be a difference based on the results from past research or theory reported in the literature. It includes two types. Okay, the alternative to the null includes two types. One is called directional, and the second is called non-directional. And we mean by directional, the researcher predicts the direction of change or a difference or a relationship of for variables in the total population of people. That means, okay, you can state that there is a relationship or a positive relationship, or maybe a difference or a change. Okay, so this is what we call the directional relationship. The second type is called non-directional. Non-directional means, okay, you didn't state, okay, that the direction. Okay, so the researcher predicts a change, a difference or a relationship for variables in a population, but doesn't indicate the direction of this prediction will be positive or negative or greater or less. So this is about what? This is about the types of hypothesis. One is called null hypothesis, and we mean by this, okay, we make prediction that there is no relationship between the dependent and independent variable. Alternative, okay, it is the opposite. So we can prove that there is or state that there is a relationship between variables. For direction, that we can state the direction, okay, positive, okay, greater, negative. So this is what we call the directional. Non-directional, when we make it open, without stating the direction of prediction. Okay, and here we have what we have in this table. We have like a comparison between null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis regarding the purpose and also the specific language that we can use in stating these hypotheses. For example, let us start with the null hypothesis. Here, to test in general population that there is no change, no relationship, no difference. So we can state like this: there is no difference, no relationship. Okay, or sometimes okay we can use there is no statistically significant differences between, okay, for example, the dependent and independent variable. We can state the dependent and independent variable like this. Okay, for alternative hypothesis, this hypothesis may be true if the null is rejected. That means, for example, I state at the beginning of my study, okay, that there is no relationship between group work activities and speaking fluency. But at the end of my study, I can either accept or reject that null hypothesis. If I reject the null hypothesis, that I'm going to accept the alternative hypothesis that there is a relationship between the group work activities and speaking fluency. So it will be true if the null is rejected. If we reject the null hypothesis, so that means, okay, we are going to accept the alternative hypothesis. It suggests a change, a relationship, or a difference. Okay, usually the language or the specific language, okay, use it in stating the alternative hypothesis. We have the magnitude statements such as higher, lower, or positive. Okay, for example, I can say there is a relationship, or there is a positive relationship, or there is an influence, okay, for group work activities on speaking fluency. There is a positive relationship between group work activities and speaking fluency. So we can have such statements. Okay, now we have some examples. There is no statistically significant differences between independent variable group 1 and independent variable group 2 in terms of dependent variable for participants at research sites. Just this is a model, okay, but this is the example. There is no significant relationship between group work and language, for example, fluency. And language fluency. This is null hypothesis, because here we negate the relationship between variables. Okay, we negate that there is no relationship between the dependent and independent variable, and we call it null hypothesis. Example number 2, there is a positive relationship between group work and language fluency, and this is called directional hypothesis. Directional hypothesis, because here we have stated the direction of change, or the direction of the positive relationship between group work and language fluency. Or we can state it like this: a group work has a positive relationship on language fluency. Okay, or an anxiety has a negative relationship on language fluency. This is another example. Again, here we have what we have stated, that the direction of change either positively or negatively. We call it what? Directional hypothesis. Number 3, there is a systematic relationship between group work and language fluency. This one is non-directional hypothesis because here we don't state the direction. We make it what? Make it open, systematic, but we don't know, okay, the direction of that. Is it positive, negative? Okay, we don't know, okay, about the direction of that relationship or that change or that influence. Okay, now we come to task 1. If you don't mind, I would like you, okay, how many participants do we have?
Right now, we have our 8 PhD students.
8.
Yes.
Okay, good. So now, if you can classify or distribute, okay, or group them into 2 groups.
2 groups. So, Ajahn Piyachat, please help me to make a group.
Okay, so you can group the students, the 8 students, okay, into 2 groups. Okay,
yes.
Because I want each group to work, okay, together. Then I will ask, okay, each group to present, okay, their answer here in the general room. If you can't, no problem. We can.
Just a minute, because right now I'm not a host. Ajahn Kampirapat is the host of the event, so I might not be able to use the breakout room. Okay, he's going to assign me as a host. Just a moment. So you need 2 groups, right, Professor?
Yes, I mean, okay, because okay, now we have a task. I want, okay, to give the students time to work together, okay, regarding this task. If the number of the students is 9, so we can group them into 3 groups of 3. If it is less, you can group them into 2 groups of 4.
2 groups of 4. Okay, just a moment.
You said 8 students, right?
Because we cannot know that our first batch will join or not.
Just a moment. Right now, I'm not yet the host. So if you're going to work in a group, perhaps we need to work like outside of the Zoom.
Ah.
Okay, is that okay, Then? But maybe we group ourselves like different people from different university. Would that be okay?
Yes. Good. So we separate. Yes.
So let's try.
Yes.
So if I can group for you.
Yeah.
Okay. We Ajahn Rosamond, Ajahn Wanchana.
Yeah.
Ajahn Onsiri, and
Yes.
Yeah.
That's one group, and then if there is, I'm not sure if the batch 1 would join us, but let's just say group 1 is Jan Rosamond.
So again, group 1 is Losamon Wanchana, Ajahn Onsili, and Ajahn Ili Wang.
Okay,
Right?
Evie. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And the next group is Piachat, Patanan, Sumon On, and
Tatiya.
yeah.
Okay, so we are group 1, right? So, okay, break into the group, the room.
Maybe we can have our outside group
Yeah.
because Dr.
This is-
Kampirapap didn't answer me. So
พี่เป็น HUSOC BRU เป็น co-host breakout room ได้ไหมคะ
ได้ปะตัก อุ้ย
Professor,
Yes.
how long would we like take for this
Yeah.
class?
Okay, it's around 5 to 10 minutes, okay, to work together, okay? Then each group should present their answer. I will give them 5 minutes later, okay, to present. Okay, so now you have divided them into groups, 2 groups or 3?
2, sir.
Two
We have
two
2 groups right now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now we have what we have 3 what we can say questions. The following are some research hypotheses. Find out the independent variable and dependent variable in each. Okay, the first one for the first group, the first one for the first group. It is proposed that the number of vocabulary items acquired is affected by the length of exposure to the target language. So this is the first, okay, the first hypothesis. I want the first group to work on this one to identify the dependent and independent variable from this one. Okay, number 2, for the second group, there is no significant difference in the 2 groups or in the 2 groups reading achievement due to the teaching method. This is for the second group, again, to identify the variables. Okay, the second part of the question or their assignment or the task is to look at the above statements again and decide what type of hypothesis is being used in each statement. Later, okay, we can work together on the third one. On the third one, when they finish, we can work together. So now it is time. Okay, I think okay, 5 minutes is enough. Okay, 5 minutes is enough for each group. Can I access okay to the groups? Can I visit them?
Yes, Chan Piachat, you be host now.
Okay, I'm the host now, and then I created breakout rooms, so now it works, and all 4 students are assigned into different rooms. So Professor Morshed, you can go to different rooms to observe. Can you hear me?
Hello? Hello? Do you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Morshed, you can visit each room.
Okay.
You can click join. Which room you would like to join? You can.
Okay. Okay. So this is the first room. Okay.
Yeah. You can click join to observe the work.
Okay.
Professor Morshed
เจน
Okay,
ปิย
yes.
ศักดิ์แอดไซน์ท่านโปรเฟสเซอร์เข้าแต่ละห้องแล้วใช่ไหมครับ
ค่ะให้อาจารย์เป็น co-host ค่ะน่าจะเข้าได้ I think you can go to other rooms because you are the co-host Professor Morshed แล้วก็ให้อาจารย์เป็น co-host ด้วยนะคะอาจารย์คำพิรภาสนะคะ
ครับแองครับ
แล้วก็รุ่นหนึ่งค่ะ batch 1 would you also like to join the work group the group link?
Mary, Jimoncho, and Ajahn James, you would like to join each group with us now?
Maybe they're not here or maybe they're not convenient to join.
Okay, that's
Yes,
good.
yes, Professor. Okay, it's my privilege to join, but I'm now communicating with my co-workers at the
Sure.
university.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you very much. But I'll be standing by here.
Okay, I'll join the group ค่ะอาจารย์คำพิรภาส
Yeah, you can.
Please Hello, hello, hello. 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 Hello, hello.
Professor? Excuse me, Professor
Yes,
Morshed? Okay, so what we need to
yes,
do,
I can.
yes,
Okay, now you can you can return them all, okay, to the main group, so we can discuss together.
right, okay.
Okay.
So what we need to do is just to let you know that what are the independent and dependent variables for each topic, is that right?
Yes, okay. So who is in the first group?
They are coming out, so just a moment. The first group.
would be
Okay. So I want okay, just one representative from this group, okay, to tell us or to answer the question, okay, for the first one, and again for the second group.
Okay, so we can see each other again after we have discussion, a short discussion, and then we prepare to present by our presenters of both groups.
Okay. So this is who is talking now?
Okay. Maybe we can begin with the first group, right, Professor?
Okay. Yes. The first group. Yes. Could you
Okay.
please could you please tell us, okay, what are the dependent and independent variable? Okay, in this hypothesis, it is proposed that the number of vocabulary items acquired is affected by the length of exposure to the target language.
Yes, sir. I'm the representative from Group 1. From this item,
Yes.
we've got the dependent variable. Is my choice. Is my answer because of the word number of vocabulary items. So I think it's gonna be like that. And one more detail, that is the word, the length of exposure to the target language. It means independent variable will be suit for this question.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. Okay, so the length of exposure, okay, is the independent variable, and vocabulary item acquired is the dependent variable. Okay, good. This is the first part of the question. The second part of the question, okay, it could be answered by you or another one, okay, in the group. Tell me, okay, what type of hypothesis is this?
Yes, for the question of group 2, please.
No. Okay, the same question. The same group. Okay, just only the second part of the question. The question is to decide what type of hypothesis is this. Is this? I mean, number one.
Could I guess? It's about the alternative hypothesis.
Okay, good. Excellent. It is alternative because, okay, here we state the direction, okay, of what of the change or the relationship between what.
Low signal.
Yeah, maybe our professor is disappear. So wait a moment. Oh, I misunderstand. I just think that is only one.
Okay, I just see ค่ะอาจารย์
Okay.
I just see. Oh, okay.
Questions.
It's our turn. Okay.
Okay. Professor is back.
ค่ะ
So let's continue to our discussion.
Could you turn on the microphone,
Yes.
please, Professor?
Professor, please unmute your microphone. We didn't hear.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, okay, for this inconvenience. Now we move to the second group. The second group, we need, okay, to answer the question. The first question is to find out the dependent and independent variable from this hypothesis. There is no significant difference in the two groups' reading achievement due to the teaching method. And the second part of the question, what type of hypothesis is this? Okay, so who will answer?
I'll try. The second group, well, we think that the independent variable is the teaching method, and the dependent variable is the reading achievement of the students.
Yes, nice, very nice. Okay, excellent. So the reading achievement, okay, is the dependent variable, and the teaching method is the independent variable. So the variable that we want to find out is its effect, okay, on reading achievement. Okay, what type is it? What type of hypothesis this one?
I think because it's we haven't really like thought about it, but I think that it's a null hypothesis.
Yes, it is null hypothesis, because here we negate, we use no significant, no significant. Okay, that's nice. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, because we don't have enough time, so we can move to the second session, or the second part of the session. So I have first to okay, again to share. Yes, to share. Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. So now let's move to the second part of our session. Okay, we have taken the break. Okay, and now we talk about population and sampling. Okay, of course. Okay, we have three different terms here. We have representative, we have population, and we have sampling. And what do you mean by each one? Okay, is my voice clear?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yes, clear.
Okay, so here when you talk about population and sampling, a more advanced research process is to select individuals or schools that are representative of the entire group of individuals or schools. Okay, let me give you an example. Suppose that you want to study, for example, one issue. Okay, for example, about reading, for example, comprehension. In, for example, English departments at, for example, Thai universities. So here, okay, you need to identify first, okay, what are these universities. Then you can select a sample. Select a sample. The sample should be what? Should be representative, okay, from the whole population. So the population will be all English departments, okay, at Thai universities. So how many universities do you have, for example, in Thailand, okay? And we have English department in these universities. So we have the term representative. Representative here refers to the selection of individuals from a sample of a population, such as the individuals selected as are typically of the population under study, enabling you to draw conclusion from the sample about the population as a whole. So representative here, okay, for example, we have all these universities and we have the English departments. Then we can select, for example, from different states. For example, the states that are in the south, in the north, in the west, in the east. Okay, so we can select from all these. Not only, okay, for example, I'm going to select just only, okay, one university in Thailand, and then I can generalize the results. Here, your sample is not representative. If you want, okay, to generalize the results, okay, your sample should be representative. That means, okay, it is selected from all universities. Okay. Then we have the term population. What do you mean by population? Population is a group of individuals who have the same characteristic. For example, all teachers would make up the population of teachers. Okay, so for example, you are going to study, for example, the English teachers. Okay, at, for example, schools in Buriram. So you have okay, so to look for all English teachers or teachers of English at this state, as your population, Okay, so the population could be small or large, it depends. Okay, within the target population, researchers then select a sample for a study, because sometimes it's what is difficult to meet all the participants of the population. Okay, sometimes the population is so large, so you can select the sample. What do you mean by the sample? The sample is a subgroup of the target population that the researcher plans to study for generalizing about the target population. Okay, for example, we have around 1,000, for example, teachers of English. Okay, it is difficult for me as a researcher to meet or to interview all those teachers. I have to select the sample. I mean to choose a number from those participants, to be my sample. In an ideal situation, you can select a sample of individuals who are representative of school teachers, For example, the sample from the population of all teachers in high school in one city. For example, we are talking about teachers in high school. Suppose that, we are talking about teachers of English language in high schools in Buriram. This is the population. How many do we have? Suppose that we have 200 English teachers. Okay, for me, this is a large number of participants. I can't, for example, interview them, or I can distribute a questionnaire. So I'm going to select representative or representatives, from those teachers to be the sample. Okay. If you select the sample, systematically, so you can say probability sampling. That means, I'm going to list all those teachers, and I'm going to select them randomly, or maybe according to the alphabetical order. I'm going to select, for example, each name. For example, number 1, and then move to number 5. Number 10, number 15. So this is systematic sampling. Or alternatively, you might be able to study biology teachers in 2 schools in the city, in the city. Maybe here this is unsystematic sampling, because you select only 2 schools. You select only 2 schools. Here, what about other schools? You cannot generalize your results. So this is called unsystematic sampling or non-probability sampling. Okay, what do you mean by probability sampling? Probability sampling, the researcher selects the individuals from the population who are representative of the population. Okay, so this is what I mean by probability sampling. The researcher selects the individuals from the population who are representative of the population, because later I'm going to generalize the results. Okay, as we said before, when we select the sample randomly, that means every member, or every person, or every student in the population has the same chance to be selected. So as a researcher has no, for example, opinion, or impression to select the individuals to be in the sample. Okay, this is the most rigorous form of sampling in quantitative research, because the investigator can claim that the sample is representative of the population, and can make generalization to the population. Yes, we talk about generalization. If you select the sample, and the sample is selected randomly, and the sample also is representative of the whole population, so later you can generalize the results. For example, as we give for Buriram state, you can generalize for the whole state. There are several types of probability sampling. One is called simple random sampling. The researcher selects the participants from the sample, so that any individual has an equal probability of being selected from the population. This is what we call selecting the sample randomly. Okay, everyone, for example, you have 500, 600 teachers. Okay, so everyone of those has the same chance to be selected. So here we have what we have. Maybe you can use different ways. For example, you can use for example, small pieces, okay, and write their names, okay, and you can fold them, put them in a box, and then you can select, okay, the number that you want. So everyone, okay, of the population has the same chance to be selected. So they have an equal probability of being selected from the population. The second approach, or the second type, is called systematic sampling. Every individual or site in the population is chosen until the desired sample size is reached. Okay, for example, we mean by N here, it is what it is number. If we have a list of participants or the population, so you can select each N, maybe each fourth, or each third, or each fifth. Okay, it depends on on the size. For example, I have around, okay, 300 okay, individuals. But in the sample, I need just only, okay, 30% of them. So I'm going to select each 10th one. So I'm going, okay, to select only 100 participants. Okay, so everyone in this sample or each, I mean, every 10th one, number 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on, okay, will be selected. Of course, okay, the names are, for example, ordered alphabetically. So this is what we call the systematic sampling. For non-probability, that means, okay, it is non-systematic. Okay, the researchers select individuals because they are available or convenient and represent some characteristics the investigator seeks to study. Sometimes, okay, maybe of the population, the number of population is not enough. For example, I'm looking, okay, for a certain number of participants. Suppose that I'm looking, okay, for 50 or 60 participants, but, okay, the number, okay, that I got is just only 40. So I'm going, okay, to select them all. But this is not probability sampling, because they are available. Okay, they are available. Or maybe, okay, I have a large number of participants or individuals, but they are not willing to participate. They are not willing to participate in my study. So in this case, it is called non-probability sampling. And also, we have to understand that if you don't select the sample randomly, you are not going to generalize the results. Okay, so in some situation, you may need to involve participants who volunteer and who agree to be studied. Okay, sometimes, okay, we said that some participants are not willing to participate in your study. So what shall I do? Just only I can select those who are willing, okay, or volunteer in my study. Further, you may not be interested in generalizing findings to a population, but only in describing a small group of participants in a study. Also, this is another case. If you, as a researcher or as a scholar, you are not interested to generalize the results. Just only, okay, I want to study, for example, the teachers of English, okay, for example, in a certain state or a certain city or countryside. Okay, so I'm not interested, okay, in generalizing the findings, okay, to other population or to other contexts. So in this case, you can select those participants or the available participants. Researchers use two popular approaches. One is called convenience, okay, and those participants are selected because they are willing and available to be studied. This is one type of non-probability sampling. And another one, snowball sampling. Snowball sampling, participants are asked to identify others to become members of the sample. Okay, suppose that I came, okay, to Buriram. I have to, for example, study a group of people, okay, but I have no idea about. Okay, and then I was, for example, guided to one participant who is, for example, has the characteristics, okay, or the qualities that I'm looking for, okay, to be what, to be a member in my study. Then that one, okay, for example, I give him or her, okay, the questionnaire, and I ask him to guide me, okay, to other participants, or I can give him, for example, the questionnaire and ask him, okay, to distribute to his friends, okay, or to her friends. So this is what we call the snowball, snowball sampling. The participants are asked to identify others because to become members of the sample. For example, sometimes, okay, we have the, for example, questionnaires, okay, just only we can share the link, okay, to other participants. So this is what we call the snowball sampling. It is not probability sampling. It is not probability sampling or non-probability sampling. Okay, now we come to another section, okay, of the study, which is collecting data, how to collect data. Of course, we talk about what about the design or the type of the research, okay, and then after that we need to collect data. How can we collect data? We collect data through instruments or tools. And what do we mean by an instrument? It is a tool for measuring, observing, or documenting quantitative or qualitative data. It depends. It depends. If it is qualitative data, we have to choose qualitative instruments. If it is quantitative, we have to use instruments, okay, for qualitative data. Okay, instruments for collecting quantitative data. For example, we have 4 types. Number 1 is called performance measures. To assess an individual's ability to perform an achievement, for example, test, intelligence test, or aptitude test. So this is what just only okay to assess or to measure the performance of the participants, maybe using test, achievement test, or maybe intelligence test. Okay, so this is what this is a way or a tool to collect quantitative data or numerical data. Also, we have attitudinal measures. Here to measure attitude of individuals, a popular form of quantitative data for surveys, correlation studies, and experiments. Researchers here use attitudinal measures when they measure feeling towards educational topics. For example, you are interested, okay, to investigate, for example, the perceptions of students towards studying English or their opinions. Okay, so here maybe you can carry out a survey study, and you are going to distribute a questionnaire, or maybe you can ask the students, okay, some close-ended questions. Okay, so this is about about attitudinal measures. This is one tool or one instrument used in quantitative data. Also, behavioral observation. To observe behavior and record scores on checklists or scoring sheets. Of course, okay, when we talk about observation, it is used, okay, as an instrument for what? For qualitative research, not for quantitative research. But here it is used in quantitative because, okay, you can observe the participant and give score number. For example, I am going to observe this participant, okay, and give him or her score. So that score is like a number. Okay, so it is considered as a behavioral checklist, and it is a tool for measuring quantitative or collecting quantitative data for quantitative research. And also we have factual information. Factual information is another instrument to collect quantitative data. Factual information or personal documents consist of numeric individual data available in public records. For example, we have grade reports or school attendance records. Yes, okay, for example, I want to find out, okay, for example, the effect or the relationship between the attendance and okay, the achievement of the student in a certain subject. So how can I get, okay, for example, the attendance record? I will go, okay, for example, to the school administration. I will ask them, okay, for the attendance, okay, of the students in this subject. So that factual information or that attendance record, okay, is considered as quantitative data, and it is a tool, okay, to help me make a connection or a relationship with the achievement of the students. So I will see how many, for example, weeks, okay, or classes does this student or the students attend, okay, for this class, and I will make a comparison or matching, okay, with his achievement in this course. Also, maybe, okay, we have the grade reports. Okay, you want, okay, for example, to make a correlation study between, for example, the performance of the students in their first language and the second language, for example, regarding writing or reading or whatever. Okay, so you will refer to the grade reports, okay, their scores. You will ask, for example, the institution administration, the reports, okay, or the grade reports of the students, and you can make a correlation study, for example. Then we move to instruments for collecting qualitative data. See, here we have the observation. Observations, okay, is instruments, okay, for collecting qualitative data, but for quantitative, just to observe the participant and give them scores. But here you can observe the participants, okay, and try, okay, to take notes, okay. Maybe you can write, okay, something, how do they behave, okay, their interaction, for example, in the classroom with the students, okay, classroom movements of the teacher, whatever, okay, you want, okay, to observe. So it is the process of gathering open-ended first-hand information by observing people and places at a research site. For example, you want to observe the teacher, okay, the teacher performance inside the classroom. So you're going to attend the class and observe the teacher. Okay, and usually, okay, when you observe, you are going to observe the teacher, okay, performance. You want to observe, okay, the classroom interaction. You are going to observe, for example, okay, the classroom environment. Everything, okay, is going to be observed, and you can gather open-ended first-hand information. Also, the second instrument, we have interviews and questionnaires. Okay, an interview occurs when the researcher asks one or more participants general open-ended questions and record their answers. Then the researcher can transcribe and type the data into computer file for analysis. Okay, of course, okay, when we talk about interviews, there are different types of interviews, okay. Maybe, okay, we have structured interview. That means, okay, you come up with some questions and you are going to ask the interviewee these questions, or maybe semi-structured interview, or maybe, okay, we have a focus group interview, different types of interviews. The idea is that as a researcher, when you interview the interviewee, you can ask some questions, some open-ended questions, and you can record, because sometimes it is difficult, okay, to write down everything said by the interviewee. But you can use, okay, a recorder, or using, okay, for example, your mobile phone to record the interview. Later, you can listen to the interview and try to transcribe. Okay, transcribe means, okay, to write the interview, to write the interview, and then you can try to code, making a coding from that. Okay, coding. This is a process, okay, followed in analyzing qualitative data. How can we analyze qualitative data? It is different from analyzing quantitative data. Here we have what we have content analysis. You are going to read the content and try to classify. Okay, maybe you can make first code, then categories, families, and then you can reach to themes. After that, you can make your interpretation. Also in questionnaires, we use questionnaire in quantitative research. But we mean by questionnaires here, the researcher asks some questions that are close-ended and some are open-ended questions. Maybe you can give the students time to answer the questions using that questionnaire. And from their answers, you can analyze them as we do in the interview. It is like coding, making categories, families, and then you reach to themes. So it's like analyzing content, content analysis. Number 3 is called documents. Documents is also another instrument used to collect qualitative data. Consists of public or private records that qualitative researchers obtain about a site or participant in a study, and they can include, for example, newspaper, minutes of meetings, personal journals, and letters, and so on. That means, I will go to a document and try to use it in my study. But this one is called qualitative, since you are going to analyze it qualitatively. For example, you are going to analyze for example, texts, taken from books or from newspaper, or maybe minutes of meetings. Maybe you can also listen to meeting of some, for example, figures, and you are going to analyze their speech, or maybe personal journals or letters. So this is like a content, and you are going to analyze it qualitatively. Number 4, audiovisual materials consist of images or sounds that the researcher collects to help them understand the central phenomena under study. For example, they include photographs, videotapes, digital images, painting, pictures. One approach in using photography is the technique of photo illustration. Participants are showing pictures and asked to discuss the content. Yes, So how can we use this as a qualitative data collection instrument? Maybe you can use the videotape or the digital image or the painting. Maybe you can ask the participants to talk about the picture. What do you think about this? What's your opinion? Of course, you are looking, or you are investigating a certain phenomena behind that. So video or audiovisual materials could be an instrument for collecting qualitative data. Now we come to one important topic for PhD and MA students, which is selecting a research topic. How can we select a topic? This is one of the problematic issues that face most of the students. What is the topic? How can I select the topic? This is one of the most frequent questions asked by students. Can you help me to find a topic for my research? So it is considered the most difficult stage in conducting a research, especially for novice researchers due to their limited experience. Yes, because they have limited experience in research. It is difficult for them to find a topic from the beginning. But the topic may consist of many aspects that can be individually investigated. Once a specific aspect is selected to be the focus of the research, that aspect is referred as the research problem. Okay, so here when we talk about what about the research topic, okay, we are talking about what about different, okay, for example, areas, and from areas, okay, we have what we have topics, okay, and from the topics, okay, we have what we have aspects. So, okay, better, okay, to look for the area of interest first, okay, and then, okay, you can read, okay, and you can identify different, okay, aspects. Which aspect, okay, that you are going, okay, to study. It is like this. That aspect, okay, could be what could be your research problem. The problem could be an interesting phenomenon that requires certain type of investigation or something that motivates researchers' interest to find out what it consists of, how it operates, what factors affect it, and so on. Okay, and also we have some problems associated with topic selection. Okay, the problems appear in selecting a research topic would be related to its doability, significance, qualification, and focus. So it is important to ask the following question when selecting a research topic. Okay, for example, can the selected topic be investigated? So this is doability. That means, okay, can I do it? Can I find, for example, different material, okay, for that or no? Is the selected topic important enough to be investigated? I mean, okay, the significance of this topic would be, okay, of a certain importance, okay, for some people, maybe, okay, for example, this Ministry of Education, okay, or maybe, okay, for schools, whatever. Okay, so is it significant? That means, okay, you are going to contribute to the field of knowledge. Is the selected topic big enough to be a research topic? Sometimes, okay, it is too big and you will be unable, okay, to collect data. Sometimes it is too small. That means it is not enough, okay, to be a research topic, maybe, okay, for PhD level. Qualification is very important. Is the selected topic specific enough to be investigated? Okay, that means, okay, you have what we have to focus, okay, on a certain aspect, not make it, okay, too broad. That means, okay, you talk about what about an area which could not be, okay, for example, studied in one study. Where and how to find research topics? Also, this is another key question asked by PhD students. From where I can get research topics? The researcher should list all the subjects that he is interested in. This is the first point. You have to, or you should list all the subjects that you are interested in. Then you should list the areas of interest within each subject. Then the topics that you may come under each area, under each area, and so forth. As the topic is selected, you should examine it to see whether it is specific enough or not. If this technique does not help, you should then consult some experts such as teachers or friends, supervisors, okay, advisors who have encountered similar difficulty before. And the best of all is the library. It is the best place to start with. I mean, okay, if you, okay, didn't find any solution for your problem, you didn't find, okay, a topic, so you have to go to the library. The library, that means you have to go and read, okay, recent studies. And for PhD students, I advise you to read recent articles in your area. Okay, or maybe recent, for example, PhD thesis. Okay, and usually go, okay, to the last chapter, okay, and exactly in the section of suggestions for further studies. Usually in this section, there is the researcher lists some topics for further or for future studies. Okay, for example, as a researcher, I review literature. Okay, I collect data. I, for example, analyze the data. I found something. Okay, but I know something that it is missing. I couldn't, okay, for example, study because, for example, I don't have time, okay, to do that. Or I couldn't, for example, use this method of analysis, or I couldn't do that. So in the suggestion of further studies, I recommend or give some suggestions, okay, for interested researchers. So usually, okay, the best way to find topics is to go there, read, okay, recent articles or recent PhD thesis in your area, and go, okay, to that section, suggestion for further studies. You will find, okay, some suggested topics, okay, for your study, and you can take one. Okay, so here we have what we have in this figure. We'll start, okay, from the subjects. For example, we have the subjects of the language. We have literature, linguistics, translation. And suppose that we take, okay, linguistics. From linguistics, we have different areas. Okay, we have phonology, morphology, grammar. Suppose that we select, okay, morphology. In morphology, we have different topics. For example, we have morphemes, affixes, borrowings. Okay. Suppose that we have selected, okay, affixes. In affixes, we have infixes, prefixes, and suffixes. So you can select one aspect. And by this, okay, we make, okay, our study, okay, box, not, okay, too general. That means, okay, for example, we didn't, okay, for example, select, okay, area or subject because it is difficult to be tackled or discussed, okay, in one study. How do you write the statement of the problem? Okay, when you come to the statement of the problem, of course, you have to talk about the actual problem as well as 5 other aspects. For example, the first one, you can talk about the topic. You can talk about, okay, the first paragraph. Okay, you can talk about the topic in general. Okay, then, okay, talk about the research problem. What is missing? What is missing, okay, in your context? Based on what? On your readings, okay, based on what? On your experience. What is missing? Okay, and then you have to give justification or importance of the problem as found in the past research or as in practice. Okay, so the justification that there is a real problem needs to be investigated. Okay, who tells you that this is a problem? You can cite from other sources. You can, for example, also justify based on what? On your experience. For example, as a teacher, for example, in schools. You can also carry out a pilot study, and this also could be one way, okay, to just justify. Okay, for example, if this is this problem, this is the first time, okay, that is investigated. No one has investigated that problem before, so you can make a pilot study. Okay, a small study before your actual study. And based on what? On the findings, you can give some justification in the statement of the problem. Deficiencies in our existing knowledge about the problem. Also, when we talk about deficiencies, that means, okay, what is missing in our knowledge? That means, okay, based on what? On the literature, okay, no one has, for example, investigated this problem before. Okay, and this study is going to fill in this gap. And also, you can talk about the audience who will benefit from your study. We mean by the audience here that the people or the institutions who will get benefit from your study. Your study is important, is significant. Who will get benefit from what? From that study. So here, these are the sections, okay, that we can, or the paragraphs that we can include in the statement of the problem section. For reviewing the literature, how can you review the literature? First, what do you mean by reviewing the literature? It is a written summary of journal articles, books, and other documents that describe the past and the current state of information. And also, I advise you as PhD students to read as much as you can about your area of interest. Okay, and then you can review the literature. Okay, reviewing the literature, you can read the articles, okay, the thesis, dissertations that are written or that investigated the same area or the same topic. Okay. And then you can find a gap. You can find a gap from what? From reviewing the literature. That means, okay, this is missing in what in the literature, and this is what I'm going, okay, to fill in, what I'm going, okay, to contribute in what in my study. Why is this review necessary? Is it necessary to review literature? Yes, it is very important. It's very necessary to document on how your study adds to the existing literature. That means if you don't review the literature, you can't know that this study is studied before or not. But if you review the literature, you can be sure, okay, that this study has not been investigated before. To provide evidence that educators need your study. Yes, okay. When we talk about the problem, we talk about what about justification. You can provide evidence that this is very important, okay, and we need this study. To build your research skills using the library. Of course, okay, when you review the literature, okay, you will spend long time in the library. Okay, long time in the library, so you will know, okay, how to search, okay, for some books, okay, articles, or using even, okay, now, for example, using, okay, different databases, okay, to search for recent articles, to learn how other educators compose their studies. Again, okay, we are going, okay, to learn, okay, how others compose, they write, okay, their studies, to help you find useful examples and models in the literature. Okay, for example, use this model, okay, because some other scholars use it, okay, in their studies. And also to develop skills in quickly locating material that you need in timely manner. So of course, okay, that the literature review is very important, okay, because, okay, you are going to know something about about your study, okay, what is missing in knowledge, and also you are going, okay, to develop your skills in different sites. Steps for conducting the research. Okay, we'll talk about what about 5 steps. First, okay, you can identify the key terms to use in your research for literature. For example, if you use Google, okay, you can type, okay, the terms that are related to your study. Okay, for example, speaking fluency, okay, speaking fluency or language fluency, okay, or maybe, okay, writing comprehension. You have to identify the key terms that are important or that are, okay, used in your study. Then locate literature about the topic by consulting several types of material and databases, including those available in an academic library or on the internet and at websites. So after, okay, you identify your key terms, so you can look for these, okay, for example, by referring to different, okay, documents, books, theses, databases, okay, journals, okay, and also you can access, okay, that using the internet. Critically evaluate and select the literature for your review. Of course, you are not going, okay, to select everything. You are going, okay, to what to read and see what is, okay, related to your study, okay, and you can select it. What is not related, okay, you can exclude it. So critically, and also one important thing, okay, when reviewing the literature is to maybe, okay, you can see, for example, different studies that talk about the same issue, So you're not going, okay, to list them, for example, in chapter 3 or chapter 2. You are not going, okay, to review these studies one by one, okay, separately. No, you can combine them, okay, together. And for example, okay, you can mention, okay, the names of those authors, okay, discuss this issue, okay, and they reach to the following findings. However, okay, one scholar finds something different, so you can evaluate, make it, okay, what we call make analysis, okay, for that review. It is not only, okay, copy and paste, okay, from different documents, but you need, okay, to critically evaluate and select the literature, okay. Then organize the literature you have selected by abstracting or taking notice of the literature and developing visual diagrams. Sometimes, okay, you need to for example, use some organizational ability, for example, about figures, okay, and this will help you, for example, maybe okay, to review the literature if you are looking for some aspects, okay, which are studied by some authors or some scholars, okay, who studied these, how do they, okay, study these, okay, what is the method used, for example, what are the results, and so on. By this, okay, using visual okay, diagram will help you, okay, later, okay, to write your reports. Okay, and finally, write a review that reports summaries of the literature for inclusion in your research report. So you can also using, okay, that, for example, visual diagram or the notes that you have taken to write your literature review. If we have time now, okay, we have another task. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Do we have time?
Right now it's 4 p.m., sir, but maybe we can have a task, the second task a little bit, or maybe we can have a conclusion, or it's up to the professor. So where our professor right now? The signal is disappear again.
Gone. Yeah.
Okay, maybe you wait a moment. So I think we come to the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions, so please feel free to ask our professor, special speaker today in the afternoon session from Yemen, right? Seiyun University. I'm not sure that I'm correct pronunciation or not. Yeah. Okay, so after the end of the presentation, we will have a closing ceremony. Then, so before closing ceremony, we have to ask something that we wonder or like to share something with our professor. So welcome back.
Okay.
Our professor, maybe
okay.
we don't have any time. We don't have enough time to continue our task too. So maybe we can have a quick Q&A session right now. Is this okay, Professor?
Okay, can. Before that, can we have a group photo?
Yes, photo? Yes, sure.
Okay,
yeah.
you can show me all the participants.
How? Let me. Full screen.
I'm really okay,
Professor,
sorry,
you can stop
the internet disconnection.
So we have a good photo right together. Maybe we choose a gallery or Professor, could you please stop presentation? Then we can spread to our gallery maybe. And so someone, could you please help me to capture?
Yes, capture, okay.
Yeah. So I give you signal.
Okay.
You can share.
Are you ready?
Share.
Or you can stop sharing first, maybe. Sorry, I'm low in technology.
I can capture the photo. So if you are ready.
Yeah.
Okay. What about other participants? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can see, right? We can see all participants here. Okay.
Okay.
Everybody's ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. Maybe one more.
Yes.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you อาจารย์ปิยชัดค่ะ
I have a question.
So now, okay. Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay, good afternoon, Professor. From
Good afternoon.
Okay, I have one question about sampling. Sampling. Okay. My question is, okay, if I would like to compare the ability of English or English competence of students from two countries. Okay, let's say Thailand and Singapore. And then they share the same characteristics, like they are the same level of study. They are English major. They are the same age, and my sample groups have the same number, like 40 and 40. Okay, and the first session I do it in Thailand, and then I fly to Singapore. Okay, with the same tools, the same instruments. Okay, my question is, how should I say my population, because there are two countries? Okay, what should be the word for my population? I cannot say Thailand because I have Singaporean sample. Should I say ASEAN, or should I say Asia, because it is too big? And the second question is this unsystematic sampling?
Okay. So, first, let me check, with you first. You want, to study, maybe you have participants, in Thailand, and also you have participants in Singapore. Okay.
Right.
What do you want, exactly to do? Is it to compare, for example, the performance of Thai and also Singaporean, participants? Or maybe, you want, to investigate, a certain phenomena, maybe in Asia in general, and you select Thailand and Singapore. What's your interest, first?
Okay, the major interest is to compare, to compare them by having them performing on any test, and then
Okay, so if you want to compare, so you can leave them. You have participants here, in Thailand and also in Singapore, and you make your study as, for example, correlation. So you are going, to compare between Thai students and Singaporean students regarding that for example variable. Okay, so it is not regarding the second question about sampling. So it depends. If you select the sample randomly, that means you have a number of population, and you select them, for example, randomly using systematic, for example, sampling, as we have, for example, discussed it. So you can say this is a systematic sampling and random sampling, and you can generalize the results. If it is not systematic, that means you have only available number of participants. Okay, so this is not a systematic sampling. I cannot generalize the results even in Thailand and Singapore, but only for the context, maybe the school or the university that you have studied. Is it clear?
Okay, yes, Professor, thank you very much.
Okay, most welcome. Most welcome.
Okay, Professor.
Another question?
Yeah, according to Ajahn Yuthachak, right? I heard about the case study. So would you please explain more? What kind of the sampling approach? Is it convenience or snowball sampling?
Okay, for a case study,
yes.
Usually we use convenience, or what we call purposive sampling. purpose of sampling, because okay, in case study usually we use a small number of participants. Okay, for example, sometimes we use 1, 2, 3, or 4 only. Okay, and this is purpose of sampling, what we call purpose of sampling, because for example, I'm looking at for example, deeply to investigate a certain phenomena. Including large number of participants, okay, in case study will maybe okay take longer time. Okay, maybe because you are going to interview the participants, you are going to observe, you are going to make some document analysis. It takes okay longer time. So usually we have okay a small number of participants in what in case study. It is called purpose of sampling. It is called purpose of sampling, and it is one type, you can say, or similar to what to convenience case sampling, or available sampling, participants who are willing to participate in what in your study.
Oh, so it depends, right, Professor?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Another question, a third question.
Actually, it's not the question, but I like to share some that I got from my major, especially for the fourth year student that they assigned to attendant course of the SP special project, something like that. So when they have named the research title or topic that they are interested in, so after that, they come to visit the advisor or expert. So they always change the area or the field of their study. So how should they do?
Okay. Yes. Okay, this is one of the problems that face students or PhD students in general. Okay, since they are not certain about the area of interest, and because of their limited experience. But okay, one advice for PhD or MA students, okay, is to read. Okay. So after a long time, okay, of reading, you will decide, okay, what you want to study, okay, and also you have the confidence that this is okay, a topic that really needs investigation, and also you understand, okay, the literature, the gap, okay, in the literature. But okay, if you have no experience or zero experience, we can say sometimes, okay, because some students, they just only depend on their advisors. Some advisors or some supervisors, they provide students with titles. This is a good way to help your students. But also it has a negative case side. The negative side is that you didn't give the students a chance to search and to look for the topics by themselves. Let them discover that by themselves. Let them search about the knowledge. If you give them just only you can guide them. You can identify the area, just only the area. You can search on this area, but don't give them the title. Okay, even some students, they don't understand for example, the variables or the hypothesis, okay, and later they face some other problems, okay, later when they, for example, collect data, they, for example, use different or wrong methodology. Okay, but if you ask the students to read from the beginning, okay, they will be clear about the steps they are following.
Yes, because we always face with that problems.
Yes.
The advisor always change their topic that they are not interested in. Okay, maybe I will apply to your suggestion. Thank you, Professor.
So it depends sometimes. Okay, it depends on the university. In some universities, they carry out, for example, seminars for PhD students. they ask them, okay, to present their, for example, proposals. They have what they have to write proposal about, okay, 20 papers, and they have what they have to present it, okay, and the committee give them some, for example, suggestions, okay, some modifications, okay, so it depends, but changing a topic after some time, it will be quite difficult, okay, for the students if he or she works for a long time, okay, on that proposal or that research.
Okay. Thanks for your suggestions, Professor. Okay, any questions from our PhD ELT students?
Okay.
Please.
If you have questions, okay, you can ask me. I'm very happy, okay, to answer your question. Really, okay, this is the first time, okay, this is the first time I conduct, okay, online, okay, workshop and also lecture. You know, okay, yeah, okay, so I'm really very happy, okay, to contribute and to participate, okay, share knowledge with you. And really, okay, my pleasure, okay, to help to answer your questions. If you have questions, you can ask me now, or even, okay, you can contact me anytime, okay. I will leave my contact number, okay, with my dear friend, okay, Prof Akapon. Am I right? Akarpon.
Yeah, Akarapon.
Akarapon, yes.
Okay. If we don't have any more questions or sharing information, so now we come to the end of the webinar. So I would like to sincerely thanks to our assistant professor, Dr. Morshed Salim Al-Jaro, right?
Yes. Okay. Also, really,
it's very
okay,
interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting presentation.
Thank you so much. I forget, okay, to thank, okay, also my friend. I meet this guy, Dr. Kamper.
Yes.
Yes,
okay,
Dr. Morshed.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, okay. Okay, so I meet him, okay, in Buriram. So if you don't mind, okay, I would share, okay, some photos, okay, at Buriram University.
Yes.
Okay, I will share some photos, okay, for that conference. Okay.
Okay. May I invite, yes, Assistant Professor Dr. Kampirapap Intanu, Deputy Dean of Humanities and Social Sciences, to give a thankful speech to our special guest speaker today. Please welcome.
On behalf of Chairman Dr. Ek or Dr. Akalapon and our ELT program, I would like to say thank you very much to Dr. Morshed, because we have met in person 2019 in Buriram, right?
Yes.
You and I recognize each other as well, and you got very high promotion after we met 2019 in Buriram.
Yes.
Right, and thank you very much, Dr. Morshed, to share your knowledge, your experience from your own study.
My pleasure. Okay, my pleasure. Okay. Anytime, okay, to help you and help your PhD students. Okay, hope to visit Buriram, okay, one day, okay,
yes, please,
and meet again. Okay, either in Buriram or in Yemen. Okay, you are welcome also to visit Yemen, okay, anytime.
Okay. Today webinar can't say the end, because we going to continue with our extend knowledge now, but because of the time, I have to say we're going to see again very soon with Dr. Morshed in person and in online as well. Thank you very much, Dr. Morshed, and see you again very soon. Okay, thank you very much, all of you again.
Yeah.
Okay,
lastly, I would like to say ขอบคุณค่ะ thank you or เซียเซีย อะไรนะ shukran jazilan yeah for joining us to the webinar today.
Okay.
Okay, maybe we
Thank you
see
so much. You are
each
most
other.
welcome. Okay. عفوا. Okay, in Arabic.
Agua.
Okay.
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 Bye bye.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you so
Goodbye.
much ค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ
Okay. Bye. Bye.
Walaikum Assalam, right?